Guys, you know what? The financial system's a mess. It's over-leveraged. We've had, since up to 2008, we had a massive credit expansion, and it burst in the financial crisis of 2008. They never really fixed it. All they did was re-leverage the system. Well, guess what's going to happen? We're going to get a similar type of a situation again, a downturn. And we're going to go into another 2008, except a little bit worse. And then what they're going to do is they're going to re-leverage it again. Except this time even bigger than before. What this basically amounts to is, when we had Ben Bernanke, and they were asking him, they were saying, where did so many trillions of dollars go? Tell us, Ben, where the money went. And he said, no, not going to tell you where it went. That's mismanagement. The world's financial system. Basically what they've done is they've over-leveraged and mismanaged the financial system. And they mismanaged the fiat currencies. And now at this point, because of this over-leveraging of the entire system, China is just as much to blame with their ghost cities and their roads to nowhere and their bridges to nowhere. All of this infrastructure and all these zombie companies and shadow banking system and real estate market that they've pumped up. The whole thing. The West, everywhere. Asset bubbles that have been blowing up. Now we're into the everything bubble. This system, when it's over-leveraged, tends to shrink back toward deflation. Then they have to re-leverage it again. They don't have any other choice. They have to move in this direction. So that's what they're going to do. They're going to over-leverage the system again. When we get this next problem, this next financial crash, they're going to over-leverage the system again. But because they're mismanaging the system, we got this new asset class out there. Coexisting alongside an ages-old asset class, gold and cryptocurrencies. They're coexisting side by side. Now, gold is an $8 trillion market, and cryptocurrencies was headed for $1 trillion. It almost got there, but now it's shrunk back. It shrunk back to something like 145 billion, you know. But don't discount it, because it can grow awfully fast. It's been building infrastructure. But what we're going to discuss is the differences, and we're going to make a logical discussion right now. What's the differences between cryptocurrency and gold? I believe personally that Bitcoin itself was made to mimic gold almost exactly. In fact, you mine it just like you mine gold. That's incredible, you know? And also, it mimics gold. Even the color of the coin that they created was a golden colored coin. You know, it says B on the center of it. Bitcoin. It's a gold coin. And basically, it's in the form of a coin. What's been the most used form of gold through history has been coinage. They're mimicking or imitating gold. Now, gold and cryptocurrencies both are in a war. Not with each other, not so much with each other, but the financial system has been mismanaged. The fiat monetary system has been mismanaged. And as a result, what's going to happen is the dollar is basically on its way to zero. There's nowhere to go now at this point except down in its purchasing power. Since going back to about when 1913 or 1914 until now, like going back 100 years, the dollar has lost almost all of its value, all of its purchasing power already. And there's only a few percentages left, just a few measly little percentages left in the dollar. I mean, there was a time, like in the 1920s, if somebody dropped a penny on the ground, kids would scramble for it. Now, there is no such thing even as a penny. The smallest denomination now is a nickel, at least here in Canada. And if a person drops a nickel on the ground, kids will walk right over it, and they won't even bother stooping down to pick it up. That's how worthless money is becoming. The cost of living is going up higher and higher. Inflation. This is all due to mismanagement of the fiat currencies. And the only reason this asset class, Bitcoin, even exists, it would have amounted to nothing. Nobody ever would have used it or touched it or even looked at it if the fiat monetary system had been managed properly. But because the fiat monetary system has been mismanaged, this is going to continue, this growth in cryptocurrencies. And cryptocurrencies are actually positioning themselves. They're positioning themselves to handle all of the world's business, transactions, everything. Smart contracts, everything else. It's all happening. Lightning Network. It's all happening while we're almost like we're asleep. But now, what about gold? Can't gold take the position of the fiat monetary system? Well, this is what I want to discuss a little bit, and I want to rationally look at this a little bit. Now, gold, you can hold gold in your hand. And real gold, if you want to use it for purchasing or anything, you've got to actually hold it in your hand. Okay? Now, say you're in one of these countries that, say, trouble breaks out in. And say that the country has a financial crisis like Venezuela. And suddenly, you need something as a hedge against the inflating currency. So your currency is inflating super fast, and you want something that's going to act as a hedge against it. So the first thing that comes to your mind is, hey, you know what? I better get myself some gold. I want a handful of gold. Well, it might be more difficult than you think. So you're in this country that I'm inventing right now. It's a fiction, but you got troubles like Venezuela breaking out, right? In this fictional country. So you want some gold because you notice that your purchasing power's vastly decreasing on the currency. You need a whole wheelbarrow full of this currency, whatever currency it is, to try to buy some carrots or whatever, and you want some gold. So you go on the internet or whatever and you try to find somebody that's going to sell you some gold, right? But what you find is perhaps the mail system in your particular country won't move gold. And perhaps when it comes in through the border, say you're going to get it mailed to you in the mail. It comes in through the border, they're going to stop it at the border and check it, and they're going to actually open up your package to see what's in there. Plus, you got to wait a long time. Even if you do find a method, somehow these people are going to get you your gold, your country's in trouble and you're going to get this gold. You run into snags trying to get the actual physical item into your hands. So you go over and you say to your wife, you know what, I wanted to get some gold. I wanted to get some of these 1 gram gold coins, little tiny gold coins. I wanted to get a dozen of them with our money, honey, you say, and so we'll be safe against this hyperinflation. And she says, well, how did it go? And you say, well, I ran into a lot of trouble. I couldn't get them. And if they did get them delivered, they're going to take 6 weeks to get here. And we might starve before they even get here. We're in trouble. We need now. We need something. And she says, she says to her husband, she says, well, have you ever heard of Bitcoin? And he says, what's that? And she says, well, it's like gold. It's digital gold. Why don't you try to buy some of that? So he goes online and he types up and he finds out that all he's got to do is make a money transfer or whatever. And the next thing you know, about half an hour later, he comes into the kitchen. He says, honey, guess what? And she says, what? He says, well, you were right about the Bitcoin. He says, I know how to use the computer and stuff. And he says, I downloaded a wallet into my computer. And he says, I was able to buy some Bitcoin a half an hour ago, and I got it in my wallet already, and we're safe. Because I could get that, he says, but I couldn't get the real gold. He says, all the trouble I had, those 6 weeks I was trying to get the real gold, and it's still, they got it at the border right now. And I might be in trouble, he says, because they got my gold at the border, and they're sending me phone calls to come verify something or whatever. Troubles. Trying to move real gold. It's the kind of world we're living in now. You got all these borders everywhere, and these governments are hot on. They're hot on to open your bags up, look inside, and try to find something of value. They make you sign papers, for crying out loud, you know. They ask you on the paper how much money you got. How much money are you moving? You know, and with this inflation going the way it is, okay, they set these standards, you know, back like, okay, you know, if you're traveling, they set these standards back like 10, 20 years ago. I think it's $10,000. You got more than $10,000, you know, and that you have to tell them, and then they're going to go and get it. He's got $10,000. Quick, open his bags. Let's find it. You know, he wrote down here he got $10,000, right? Well, back then when they wrote that, 10,000 was a lot, right? But the way things are going, with the dollar going from losing 97% of its purchasing power, and soon probably going to lose another 50% more, suddenly that 10,000's purchasing power drops down to 5,000. And then soon it's going to drop down to 2,000. And in the end, maybe a year from now or something, or 2 years from now, that $10,000 won't buy you an orange. So how are you going to be able to travel? You know? When we're heading into a hyperinflation. See? You get my point? In other words, the purchasing power of everything is still maintained a fair amount. So 10,000 is still a lot of money. But what about 5 years from now? $10,000 might not even buy you an egg. You know? And you think these governments are going to change? They're going to still keep everything the way it is now. So the way we're going in this world is, we're moving into a situation where not only are they not going to let gold travel through borders, real physical gold, they're not even going to, they're going to establish checkpoints within each country, within each county probably. You're going to find in the end that you'll run into a checkpoint at the end of your county line, where they got a little guardhouse, you know? You run into Checkpoint Charlie, and you'll have to stop there and declare everything every time you want to cross between one county and another county, even. So now how are you going to move your gold around? Your real physical gold. But when those days come, you're still going to be able to move your cryptocurrencies seamlessly anywhere on Earth. So with this kind of a world, okay, with this kind of a world that we're moving into, which one makes more sense? The old-fashioned gold that you can hang in. I mean, okay, it's nice because you know you got it right in your hand, and you can look at it and see it in the real world. Or the new digital gold. Which one actually makes more sense, though, moving into this new digital world that we're in? So there's a place for both of them. But they're in a war against each other, these two different types of currencies. And in some respects, they both share a lot of things in common. I've broken it down to three main aspects of money. Not currency. Not currency. Currency's not money. I'm talking about money. I've broken it down to three main aspects of money, which makes things money. One of the things is what's called a store of value. And basically, these are my own rules I've made for understanding if something is money or not. So the first rule is store of value. And basically how I say that rule works is can you store it away and come back years later and it still maintained its purchasing power and value that it had when you stored it away? That's basically how that rule works. So we ask the question about Bitcoin. Is it a store of value? Well, what about the people who took a Bitcoin, say they bought one Bitcoin way back in, I don't know, 2010, say, and say they paid $2 for it, and they put it away on a paper wallet. If they go back there right now and find that slip of paper and enter in their private keys, their $2 now has turned into roughly $4,000. I'd say that's a pretty darn good store of value. What about gold? Well, it's the same way. If they'd bought an ounce of gold back in 2010, you know, they would still have an ounce of gold, and it would still be worth, I can't remember the prices in 2000, but anyway, it would still be worth an ounce of gold, and it would still have value. So it's a good store of value too. Okay? So they're both a store of value. Well, I'm going to tell you, if they'd stored $1 away in 2010, dollar is a store of value too. You can put physical dollars, the actual physical greenbacks away in a safe or whatever, and come back and get them. But I'm going to tell you, if you'd stored $1 away in 2010, right now, and taken it out, you know, you'd only, back in 2010, we had dollar stores. Dollar Tree, the dollar store, whatever, and you used to be able to go in there, and it was called the dollar store because all the items in the store were $1. I don't know about you guys, but now when I go to my dollar store, most of the items are either $2 or $3 now. Some of them are $5. They're not all dollar anymore. And very few items in the dollar store now are $1. Only the chocolate bars. Everything else is more. You know what I mean? They've jacked the price up on everything else. So now, what about a store of value for the dollar? Well, you put that dollar away in 2010. Now you haul it out 9 years later. And it buys 50% of what it bought before. So no, the dollar is not a good store of value because it's lost half of its value in 10 years. It's lost 50% of its value in 10 years on almost everything that you purchase, except for silver. Silver's cheaper. That's the only thing. And I think gold is actually a little bit cheaper. So if you'd stored gold away in the last 10 years, you probably would have lost a little bit of money too. You know, but those are the only two things that are cheaper. Everything else is higher. You know? So the dollar's not a great store of value. But we can call it a store of value because it still will be worth something, is the point. So that's number one, the store of value. Now, the second part of being money, my rules of money, is part two is fungibility. And what that basically means is one unit is equal to any other one unit. So you can trade. So if a guy's got a $5 bill and you got a $5 bill, you can say, you want my 5 and I'll take your 5. And he says, sure, because they're both worth the same thing. That's fungibility. That's the second quality of money. That has to be fungible. You see, you can't trade things like ducks and horses. A guy's raising ducks and another guy's raising horses, and you try to trade, the horse is worth more than the duck. They're not fungible. So it makes it difficult for trade. So fungibility basically means each unit's worth the same as every other unit. So gold's got that covered. Any 1 ounce of pure 24 karat gold is equal to any other 1 ounce of pure 24 karat gold. It's fungible. Perfect. Perfect for trade. Okay? But so is Bitcoin. A Bitcoin is a Bitcoin is a Bitcoin. It's the same thing. It's very fungible. If you say you have a half a Bitcoin, 0.50 Bitcoin, and some other guy's got 0.50 Bitcoin, his Bitcoin is worth exactly the same as your Bitcoin. It's perfectly fungible. So it's got that covered. Cryptocurrency and gold both have got that covered. So the first two aspects of money, gold and cryptocurrency, both got it covered. Well, what's the third aspect of money? Because we're comparing all three right now. You know, the dollar's fungible too. So all three of them's got every aspect of money covered. The dollar, gold, cryptocurrency. Now what about the third aspect? Limited supply. That's what the third aspect is. Limited supply. And why that is such an important aspect of money is because if you've got an unlimited supply, then how can it be worth anything? You know? If you've got as many dollars as there are grains of sand on the beaches on the earth, then it ceases to have value because there's too many of them. Well, okay, what about Bitcoin? Well, Bitcoin is limited to 21 million. There'll never be any more. So it's got the limited supply covered. What about gold? Gold more or less has it covered too. But there is a lot of gold in the ground that they can mine to increase the gold supply. So gold doesn't have it quite covered as good as Bitcoin, because Bitcoin actually has got a hard limit of 21 million, which they can never change. Whereas gold, who knows how much there is in the ground here and there, and they make new discoveries every now and then. So gold doesn't quite have it covered as good as Bitcoin, to tell you the truth, as far as limited supply is concerned. So how does the dollar pair into all of this? Well, the dollar is absolutely useless when it comes to limited supply, because they can make as many as they want, forever and ever. So gold is somewhat limited. Bitcoin is hard limited. But the dollar is the loose cannon in all of this. It doesn't have, I would not give it a check mark. I would give it a big fail. Fail, fail, fail when it comes to that aspect of money. It's absolutely useless because it fails in that aspect of money. And that is going to be the part that brings the dollar down to be worth nothing in the end, is because it does not have a limited supply. The only limiting factor on the dollar is the Federal Reserve. It's the only limiting factor. And they were working at limiting the dollar. This is why the dollar's maintained its position quite high on the dollar index right now. It's fairly high on the dollar index, 97. And the reason why is because they were trying to limit supply for months there. They were removing $50 billion a month of liquidity from the system and basically burning it. That's limiting its supply. So temporarily, the Fed was limiting its supply. Now they've decided they're going to stop limiting its supply. And in fact, they're probably going to change directions and start increasing its supply. So this inflation that we already have is going to increase tremendously now that the Fed has decided to go ahead and unlimited supply of dollars for all. Okay? Can we say dollar hyperinflation? So if you think it's been bad the last 10 years where you go to the dollar store and now all the items are $2, it's going to get a lot worse. Soon they're going to have to rename the dollar store. They're going to have to call it the $100 store. Because all those little dollar items that come from China, you know, those scissors, you use them once and the handle breaks off. You know, all the kind of items you buy from dollar store, you know, even the crayons are not Crayola crayons. They're Taiwanese crayons, and they're the kid goes to use them and they snap in half or whatever. You know, all this stuff that they sell. It used to be $1. Soon it's going to be $100. The $100 store. And then they'll have it go to $200 per item. It's the same thing that's happening now. And this is what we're headed. This is where we're headed. And this is where most people's savings are. Their bank accounts and their savings are all tied up in dollars. It's going to destroy the middle class. Because basically your bank account's going to become worthless right out from underneath you while you're holding it. So the people are going to try to get rid of it. They're going to try to get into something that's moving in the opposite direction. What is there? There's gold, silver, and cryptocurrencies. Well, once the hyperinflation starts, good luck buying in. You're going to pay a hell of a lot more than you're paying right now, I can tell you that much. So, which makes more sense, really, though, in the environment that we're moving into? Cryptocurrencies or gold and silver? Well, I'm going to tell you what. My end conclusion in all of this, and what I figure that gold and silver are never going to disappear. They're always going to be a part of the financial system. They're always going to be a part of people's store of value. And they're going to move up in price. They're going to move massively up in price from where they are right now. But don't discount out cryptocurrencies, because cryptocurrencies are going to do the same thing. And there's room for all to coexist at the same time within this world and become things that are precious gold, silver, and cryptocurrencies. So for all these people out there who are hard cryptocurrency enthusiasts, and they say, well, I'll never have any gold and I'll never have any silver, you better start looking into gold and silver a little bit, if all you've got is cryptocurrencies. And for the other guys out there who are hardcore gold enthusiasts and say, I'll never touch that cryptocurrency, it might pay you to go out and experiment with it a little bit. I mean, you guys that are into gold, you know, you go out there and you spend $100 for a meal and you don't think nothing of it. You know, or $50 for a meal, you and your wife, or $100 for a meal, you and your wife, and you don't think nothing of it. And you just write it off and say, oh, well, that was a good meal. Cost me $100. Oh, well, it was a good meal. I'm going to go out and buy some lottery tickets and buy myself from whatever, you know, and you go out and spend another $100. So you spent $200 and you got nothing, basically. Well, you could go out for $100 or $200. You could start experimenting with cryptocurrency. Just buy a little bit of this coin, a little bit of that coin, set up this wallet, set up that wallet, and you get a feeling inside. After you use it a little while, you start to get a feeling inside and say, hey, I know how to do this now. You know, I sent $5 worth of cryptocurrency across the internet, and it worked. I got it there. I learned how to copy and paste on the computer. Honey, look, I'm able to copy paste now, and I know how to do that. And look, I can copy this cryptocurrency address, and now I can paste it into this wallet. Look how easy this is, hon. I figured out how to do it. Now I just put the send button and push the button, and look, the money goes. And look, it gets there, and you figure out how to do it all by yourself. And you get a great feeling of satisfaction. You know, as I've learned how to use this newfangled currency. You know, this crazy cryptocurrency. And you start to think to yourself, hey, you know what, maybe I'll buy a little bit more of it now that I know how to use it, you know. And you start to get into this new technology, because you better get into it a little bit quicker than your neighbors, because by the time they buy in, see, we're just in the infancy of this now. It's just beginning, you know. And by the time all your friends and neighbors are buying in, the price will be 1,000 times higher than it is now. So if you get a little bit now, you know, you're a little bit ahead of the curve. But plus, if you've already got a little bit of gold and silver put away for yourself, well, you're sitting pretty, you know, compared to your friends and neighbors. They're all going to get caught with their pants down, I'm telling you, because, honest to goodness, they got nothing but dollars. Nothing. 99% of the people out there don't listen to programs like I'm running right now. They don't know what's going on. They're just living from day to day, from hand to mouth, earning their paycheck, going out and having a good time, and they got their head in the air, and they don't know what they're doing, and they don't know any of this is coming down the pike. They don't know that there's a crisis coming at us, a financial crisis. They don't know that the world is actually changing while they sleep at night. The world is modifying itself and remodifying itself and changing, and it's becoming just like the internet came in. You know, I saw a thing on there not long ago about the internet, you know, and it showed the internet when in its infancy. And the guy, you know, there's just like, you could almost count them on your hand how many sites you could go to on the whole internet. It's like a dozen, it's like a couple dozen sites. That was it. That was it. That was the whole internet. The whole World Wide Web. It's like a couple dozen sites. Now look what it's become. Well, we're seeing the same thing happen with cryptocurrency. I can't keep up anymore. Every day there's some new big thing that they're adding to the network of the cryptocurrencies. It's growing the same way as the internet grew. You know? And so for you gold guys out there, it might be time you just experimented a little bit. Take $100 or something. I mean, you spend that at your restaurant, or I almost said Wendy's because that's my favorite restaurant. I know I'm simple. I like Walmart and I like Wendy's. Anyway, okay, we'll see you guys later. You guys have a great day, and bye-bye for now.